Hello, everybody. It's Sophia Mona Lisa of the Golden Ray Center and the Roseville Mystery School. And I am very delighted to bring you today's video journal called Standing in the Light. Now, today is Saturday, February 17th, and the big event that transpired today is the Venus-Pluto conjunction. I'm going to talk a lot about that event today. And just 4 days, 3 days ago, depending on where you are in the country, was the Mars-Pluto conjunction. So I'm going to be talking about the two of those events today. Now, before I talk about those events, there are two key events that happened in January that you need to be aware of because they've paved the way for not only what's happening with the Mars and Venus conjunctions with Pluto, but also several other cosmic events happening this month as well. And I'll touch on those for you. Okay, so let's go back to last month, January 8th. And if you don't know, that was my birthday, my 60th. No, my 61st. I can't even keep track anymore. 61st birthday. And that was the Venus gate activation at the sacral chakra right here, what we call the portal of personal power. That activation happened in Sagittarius, and it was closely conjunct Yeshua in the sky. Now, remember, in my work, Yeshua represents your inner Christ consciousness. And so, what this means, as Sophia revealed to me, is that the inner Christ consciousness, your inner Christ, took over the wheels of this portal of personal power. So, like if you think about your vehicle, right, your sacred vessel, which is a temple for your divine light, if you think of this vessel as a vehicle, Yeshua took over the wheel. If you think about the Mahabharata, Krishna as Christ took over the reins of the chariot as the charioteer for Arjuna. This is exactly what transpired at this activation at the portal of personal power, where in our little will became aligned with the great divine will. And I don't mean wheel, I mean will. Pardon my Southern accent. Will, W-I-L-L. This is huge because by now having our own will aligned with divine will, remember the scripture, let my will be thy will. Okay. Now that they are aligned, it unlocked the door for what's transpiring since then in terms of humanity's ascension to be able to unfold. These are phenomenal, exciting times. The next event in January that you need to be aware of, which was super potent, was the Pluto-Sun conjunction. It started at 29 degrees, 59 minutes of Capricorn. That's the very last minute of mastery in Capricorn before you cross the threshold to 0 degrees, 0 minutes of Aquarius. And so the Sun and Pluto came together at that 29:59 Capricorn, and they crossed that bridge. They crossed that threshold together to 0 degrees Aquarius, 0 minutes. A lot of people talking about that Pluto-Sun conjunction that took place in January on the 20th talk about it in terms of the 0 degree of Aquarius. They've completely missed half the story by not paying attention to the fact that they traveled together. They initiated that journey from 29 degrees, 59 minutes of Capricorn. So what does that mean for us? How potent and powerful was that for us? Well, essentially, it was a huge surge of cosmic energy that allowed us to stand up within ourselves in our divine sovereignty as Christed beings and break the chains, break the binds of what Sophia calls the shadowland. The shadowland is this entire external reality that is created by the personality. Some people would call that the egoic self or the lower mind. Some people call that the matrix, okay? In the ancient teachings, it's called Maya. That's a Sanskrit word, Maya. It means illusion, because everything created in that external reality is imperfect. It's imperfect. The only perfection that can be created in our reality is when we have our attention, our focus, our awareness on our divine self that broadcasts the divine love that we are embodiments of through our hearts. Everything that is perfection is made manifest by our divinity. Everything that is created through our humanity, our personality, our egoic self is imperfect. It's tainted, it's stained. And so this is a huge shift that this surge of power came through from the sun, which also represents our radical, radiant love. That radical, radiant love is that divine love that we are embodiments of. And in fact, you've heard me talk a lot about the inner sacred flame. And a lot of people will talk about your divine flame. Sophia told me not to use that analogy anymore. She said it's too limiting, because when you receive your transcendent garment of light, it's like a white blazing fire. It's like 10,000 times the light of the sun. And so she said, use the vision of the sun as that image that you can connect with in your Christ heart for your divine self, that divine love, which you are. And if you get up in the morning and you walk outside, I don't know where you're living, when it the sun kind of rises to where you can really now see it in its full radiant glory. For me here in Central Florida, it's about 9 o'clock. I can walk out onto my balcony and boom, the sun is there. And when I just close my eyes and I just receive that radiance from the sun, it is another way that you can feel and connect with the radiance of your own divine self. So I offer that to you. So that was the big takeaway of Sun and Pluto starting at that last minute of sovereignty in Capricorn, crossing over the threshold into Aquarius, the realm of the ascended masters. This is huge because the whole role of the ascended masters is to help humanity step into their perfection, to bring on and to be able to wear their transcendent garment of light as the result of their ascension. They are fully realized Christed beings. I've talked about humanity being a Christ race, and that this is where our journey, our whole purpose for incarnating on this planet is to be able to come back into conscious, equal partnership with our divine self as divine creators, and to have this ascension where we are now eternal beings of light. So this is the whole beginning of the story, right? Once upon a time, we stood up in our divine sovereignty, and we allowed the power of Sun and Pluto to surge through us and break the chains that bind us to the shadowland so that we can stand fully in our light. Now, this is why Sophia calls this external reality the shadowland. Think about high noon. You stand outside, high noon, the sun is above you. You look around, there is no shadow. That's why this external reality created by the human self is called the shadowland, because it is not standing in that full light of the divinity that you are. This is huge. All right. So that was the preface to what's unfolding this month, February. And specifically, I said we're going to talk about the Venus and Mars conjunctions to Pluto. But before we do that, let me just show you some of the major cosmic events that have transpired this month. Now, what I want you to be aware of is from the moment of February 9th, when we had our new moon in Aquarius, through the rest of this month, this entire period is being formed by a star called Deneb in the ancient constellation of the Swan, also known as Cygnus. This is highly significant for every one of all of these events, because you'll see why when I show you what the constellation Cygnus is about and what that star Deneb represents. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to focus then on the Mars-Pluto conjunction that happened. For some of you, it was on the 13th. For me, it was the 14th. Because it happened like about 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time. So most people are identifying this event as happening here in our side of the world on the 13th, but depending on where you are, the 13th or the 14th. So for me, it happened on Valentine's Day, which I love. And then, of course, today's event, Venus Pluto. Now, I'm just going to give you a heads up. There's a huge event happening on Monday, 2 days from today. I will do a journal around that because it ties in with everything that's unfolding through us since Yeshua took the reins, took over the wheel of our personal power, and our will became aligned with divine will. Okay, so here we go. This is the constellation Cygnus. Now, the information I have here, because it's concise, comes from the PegasusProducts.com website. You may be aware that a lot of my information has been coming from 2 books. The first one is this book by Catherine Tennant. It's The Lost Zodiac. And the information on the stars I've been getting from this book, Starlight Elixirs and Cosmic Vibrational Healing. Okay, well, it turns out my beloved soul sister, Maureen, discovered this PegasusProducts.com site, and they actually generate the same starlight elixirs that are spoken of in this book. In fact, Fred Rubenfeld, one of the authors of this book, actually took over the running of this website and the creation of those starlight elixirs until he had to pass it on to himself. So this is completely aligned with the source that I've been using for these stars. So the key word for the constellation Cygnus, which you see here as the swan, that's it, the swan, is non-physical awareness. This is huge in terms of these Aquarian frequencies that we are working with right now in February. It was actually Sophia who explained to me that Aquarius as energies is the realm of the ascended masters because, of course, they are living and working from the higher spheres. You will recall in the past, I've spoken to Aquarius in terms of our multidimensional self, the quantum field. In mundane astrology, they'll talk about it as, the big picture view. Also related to that is freedom and liberation. And of course, freedom and liberation is all about ascension. So it's absolutely natural progression that, yes, expanding our awareness about the Aquarian frequencies, that they include non-physical awareness and especially awareness of the ascended masters. So this is so synchronistic that this astrological constellation is governing all of these major events that are happening this month with our own ascension at this time. So Pegasus Products tells us that the energies coming from Cygnus that are sent towards the earth are specific patterns that are now being focused on relating to the development of all of humanity as it proceeds to a new renaissance. What does renaissance mean? It's a new birth, a new awakening in consciousness. That's what these Aquarian frequencies are about, liberating the collective consciousness of humanity at the global level. And this would include and accept the non-physical realities. As these beings from Cygnus moved into the higher realities, and when you heard me say higher spheres, that's just another term for these higher realities, they naturally understood so much more of the non-physical realms, right? Why are they non-physical? Because they are realms that are vibrating at higher frequencies. They're not as dense as the frequency of our Earth. And when they understood the non-physical realms, they recognized that encouragement towards those in the physical realms to include and accept the non-physical was a key part of our development of consciousness. Remember, January 20th, Pluto moved into Aquarius. He's going to be there for the next 2 decades, with the exception of a very brief sojourn between September and November, about a month and a half then, where he will dip back into that mastery point of Capricorn. But after that, from November on, it's sailing straight ahead into these Aquarian energies. This is so important to understand how the development of our consciousness is a fundamental part of our ascension journey. And of course, that includes being able to work consciously, right? In conscious equal partnership. Remember, we are in this eclipse series on the Aries Libra axis, which is the path of conscious equal partnership. We've already had 2 of those eclipses last year, 2023, the first in April, the second in October. We're going to be having the third one next month, March. So as we are developing our consciousness, We are coming into conscious equal partnership with our divine self. And as we're coming into conscious equal partnership with our divine self, the ascended masters are there to help us expand into that relationship and increase our frequency. So we will be experiencing conscious equal partnership with these non-physical beings of the higher ascended frequencies that will be supporting, teaching, helping us. So it says here, humanity is poised, waiting, and ready to accept and receive these energies. So already we're dipping into this incredible theme that's really the foundational piece for these big activations happening this month. All right, let's look at the star Deneb. Here we go. This is what the actual constellation of stars looks like. And here's Deneb right at the tip of the beak, right? I guess swans have beaks, or at least you could say at the head, right there. That's where he is. The key word is revelation. Wow. Yes, because every breakthrough in consciousness that you're going to experience in these Aquarian frequencies as your consciousness is expanding is going to be a whole new revelation. And so this star, Deneb, has the ability to create deeper, inspired states and an awareness of the teachings of the masters, the ascended masters. You're going to start receiving teachings from them. And the way that it works is they're not like telepathically sending you a message so it sounds like you're hearing a message from somebody else, right? Like you've tuned into a radio station. No, because they are fully realized Christed beings, their I am presence, their divine light that is the one source light, is in unity consciousness. It's in oneness with our mighty I am presence, our I am divine light. And so when they're sending us help and support, it's going to feel like, oh, we just had this thought. It's going to feel like it's coming from us because these higher frequency thoughts, awarenesses, some people call them downloads, are coming from our divine self. And because they are in oneness with our divine self, when they are supporting them, it is all one source. It feels like it's coming from our own self, because in truth, we are all one at source. So this is huge that this star here is helping us to have these deeper inspired states of awareness, what I call transcendent states of awareness. In fact, Epona, the Celtic horse goddess who shared with me the horse wisdom of the first 6 astrological signs, showed me that the horse wisdom for the sign Taurus, which is where she is right now in the sky, Epona is in Taurus, is all about transcendent awareness. Again, this is moving away from the lower mind and allowing us to raise our frequency and be able to receive the intelligent activity of the higher mind that is aligned with our divine source. This is how we get into these transcendent states of awareness and can receive these higher frequency messages from our own divine self and from these ascended masters. It says here that there may be an enhancement of the channeling process with connection to non-physical beings of light, assistance, and love. I'm not really crazy about this word channeling process. I would rather say there is an enhancement of communication. And so if you think about trying to communicate with somebody over the very archaic radio system that they had back in the 30s and 40s versus communicating with somebody over your iPhone, you can see it's a much more enhanced, refined communication process. Okay, so this is what will be happening as these ascended masters that are beings of light and love are starting to come in and help you in your ascension process. So that's huge. It talks here about practices that focus on breathing being a part of this. And I am going to show you a very simple breath practice that I started teaching the Galactic New Earth Tribe back in August of last year and have been encouraging them to use on a daily basis. And that is to help bring the field of your brain and the field of your heart into coherence. And when you bring them into coherence, then you can drop into your Christ heart, which is the door to your divine self. This is where you're going to be able to feel the presence of that divine love that you are, your inner, what I call Sophia Christ, or others would call their inner source, depending on which religious background you come from, whatever the great source that you identify. Some people identify that as Yeshua. Some people identify that as Allah. Some people as God, Goddess. Whatever the one great source of light is, that's what you are given access to. When you bring these fields into coherence, and now your attention and your awareness is dropping into your Christ heart, focus there, you can actually feel the presence of that light and that divine love right there. So it's amazing to me that Deneb, as the star that's informing all of these these cosmic activations this month, is even connected on using the breath to connect with and communicate not only your divine source, but all of these ascended masters who are one with you and your divine source. So before we look at the charts for the Mars, Pluto, and Venus, Pluto conjunctions, let's take this moment now for me to quickly show you that breath practice. And I encourage you to use this every day. Start your day with this practice. You can start with just, 2 or 3 minutes, build up to 5 minutes. You will find that when you are dropped into your Christ heart, 20 minutes will go by like a flash because you have dropped into the non-linear space of the eternal now, where source is. Remember, it's infinite, it's eternal, it's omnipresent, it's everywhere, it's omnipotent, it's all powerful, and it's omniscient, it's all knowing. And all of that takes place in the non-linear eternal now space. And when you drop into your Christ heart, you access that space, which is why when you come out of it, boom, it's like, how did 20 minutes or 30 minutes go by? Feels like I've only been sitting there a few minutes. Okay, so this is what you do. Now, Sophia explained to me that the instructions that I'm going to share with you about this practice, which is very simple, is like a recipe. Okay, So suppose I invite you over for dinner and I make this beautiful cake for dessert, and you love this cake and you're like, oh, please, will you give me the recipe for this cake? I got to have it. And I'm like, sure, I'm happy to give you the recipe for the cake. And you take the recipe home and you're going to bake this cake, but you leave out the baking powder. Well, you're going to get a cake. Might not be a very good cake. And it's certainly not going to be the same cake that you had at my house that you love so much. So I'm sharing this with you because it is important in a recipe to use all of the ingredients and to follow all of the steps if you want the same outcome. Okay. All right. So what you do is you take your left hand and you put it on your heart center. Now, there's two reasons for doing this. And this is a step that is most often left out of the recipe. But I assure you, it's a critical part of the recipe. By putting your left hand, which is, of course, on your feminine side, on your heart center, you're doing two things. One, it's allowing you, when you close your eyes, to bring your awareness here and to keep your awareness here on your heart center. That's the first important thing. The second important thing is, as you practice this breath modality that I'm going to show you in just a minute, and your hand is here, it creates within you an autonomic signal. And so what that means is you could be out driving and it's crazy traffic and you're at this stoplight, and all you have to do is put your hand on your heart. And because of that autonomic signal, boom, you drop into your crazed heart, your breathing becomes balanced, and you are taken into your crazed heart and you are relaxed and you're brought into this peaceful, harmonious space. Let's say you're out at Walmart. It's jam-packed. You can't even get down the aisles to get to what you want because there's so many people. Put your hand on your heart. Boom. Again, because of the autonomic signal, you are automatically dropped into your crazed heart, where you've come to this still point where you now are in this peaceful, harmonious place. Okay, so that first step, that first ingredient is crucial for the rest of this. Now, of course, you're going to have your eyes closed. And when your eyes are closed, because your hand is here, immediately your awareness drops to your heart. How do you know this? Well, now move your hand to your left knee. The moment you do that, your awareness goes to your left knee. Okay? We want our awareness here on the heart. Now what you do is you take 3 slow in breaths through the nose and 6 slower out breaths through the nose. That's it. 3 slow in breaths, 6 slower out breaths. In and out of the nose, in and out of the nose. I recommend doing a series of 9 cycles, minimum. So what that does, that breath, the 3 slow inhales, the 6 slower exhales through the nose, brings this brain field and your heart field into coherence. And when they're in coherence, boom, now you've dropped into your crazed heart. This is important if you are consciously engaging your ascension process, because the ascension process is about turning from the external world to the inner world and creating a tangible relationship where you can feel the presence of your divine self here in your heart space. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I don't know how to feel that. I don't know what that feels like. Well, I'll tell you what happens for me. Doesn't mean it's going to happen for you, but if it does, it'll be a signal. What happens for me is when I start to feel that majestic I am presence that is here in my heart start to like expand and show up, right? For lack of a better word. What happens is my eyes start to get like a stingy, teary sensation, and my nasal passages, my nose, inside my nose here, start to get like a stingy, burny feeling. And then that scripture, my cup overfloweth, that scripture describes the feeling that starts to show up here, where it's like, whoosh, all of this light and love, whoosh, right here, that the cup, which is your heart, is now overflowing with the presence of this energy, this light. So you can wait for yourself to feel that sensation show up for you, or you can kind of help it along by thinking about something in your life, someone who you have such a deep, intense, abiding love, adoration, cherishment for. And so while you've got your attention here on your heart center and you're doing the 3 slow inhales, the 6 exhales, you can conjure up that feeling of adoration and devotion for whoever it is that will help you to tap into the feeling of that divine light and love when it does show up. Spiritual students that work with a guru, for instance, I spent a lot of time in India in the mid-90s with my guru, Satya Sai Baba. These spiritual students come to have a deep, abiding love for their guru. But the only purpose of the guru is to provide you with an external form that will help you bridge to the formless. That's it. They're not a master of you or over you. They're just providing the external form as the tool to help you bridge to the inner formless, which is your own guru, which is your own divine self. And so if you have a practice where you have a spiritual guru, you can even use that feeling of devotion. That's why the Satya Sai Baba says that the fastest kind of yoga practice towards self-realization or moksha, liberation, is bhakti yoga, because bhakti is a Sanskrit word for devotion. Feeling the devotion, the love for the presence of your divine self, your mighty I am presence, or until you can actually feel it show up of your spiritual guru. Feeling that in your heart space helps you make that bridge over to the inner formless guru, which is your I am self. And, you know, I mentioned I was over in India back in the mid-90s, so that's about 30 years ago. Baba said to me, he said, the moment you take your attention off of me, the work ceases. The moment you put your attention back on me, the work flows. And it's the same with your I am presence. It is broadcasting through you that divine love presence that is the infinite intelligence and intelligent activity that creates all things. It's flowing through you to bring perfection into your world. The moment that you take your awareness off of it, the flow ceases. It's like a water hose. The moment you kink the water hose of the garden, the water that you're trying to sprinkle your garden with, it stops flowing. To get the kink out of the garden hose, you have to bring your attention back to your heart. That's why I recommend doing this practice. It's a simple practice every day. And then you can increase it to twice a day. And then you can increase it to, anytime you want to drop in. You can even set aside a schedule. Why do you think that the Muslims call to prayer 5 times a day? Because they're supposed to be in prayer focused on that one divine source. And so you yourself can use that practice of 5 times a day. Eventually, you don't have to do it out the gate. If you will just do it every morning to begin with, it's the beginning of a practice. And then you can call on your own spiritual self-control to continue the practice. We call this a sadhana. Spiritual practice is a sadhana in Sanskrit. And more spiritual self-control, more spiritual discipline will allow you to expand that sadhana to 2 times a day, to 5 times a day. Anytime you feel off kilter and you need to come back home to yourself. So all of that is related to this star Deneb in Cygnus that is informing these events between the new moon in Aquarius that happened on the 9th of this month through the end of this month. So let's look at the next slide, which is the chart for the Mars-Pluto conjunction. Here we go. First thing I want to point out, notice how everything that's going on in this chart is happening below the ascendant descendant, which we call the horizon. These are the personal houses. The 1st through the 6th and the 7th through the 12th are the transpersonal houses. Notice that everything is happening here. This goes back to the idea that we are breaking free from the personal outer creation, the shadowland, so that we can turn from the shadowland into the full light of our divine self. So here we see, this is the Pluto Mars conjunction, 0 degrees, 46 minutes. So of course that rounds up to 1 degree of Aquarius. Notice it's not making any aspect to anything else in the sky. Okay. But there are other aspects going on in the sky that are highly significant. I've color coded them here because there's so much going on that if I tried to draw all the lines here, it would just be like, it's like snow on the screen, right? Static on the screen. Can't take that in. So we're going to start here with the blue one, Osiris, the cosmic Christ, who is making a sextile to the star, Deneb, who is standing close to Saturnia. They're in Pisces. Okay, I'm not going to go into the deep ramifications of how these aspects are unfolding. I just don't have time. If you want to have a personal reading done around this, I'm happy to do that with you. Right now, I'm just showing you what was going on for your reference. The big event here, of course, Mars-Pluto. Mars, your sacred masculine, your inner masculine, breaking the binds from the shadowland to stand in the full light of your divine self. Okay. Remember what I've said before, Mars always goes ahead of Venus, right? Like a machete clearing the path for the sacred feminine, because the sacred masculine always serves and supports the sacred feminine. That's why this event happened first and the Venus event happened today. All right. So the cosmic Christ is also making a trine to Jupiter over here in Taurus. Then we have the cosmic Sophia right here in Sagittarius at 17 degrees. She's making a trine to this Chiron North Node conjunction in Aries. Remember, a trine is a path of most allowance. So a lot of support here. This trine with the cosmic Sophia, the trine with the cosmic Christ. These are pathways of most allowance, allowing this shift from the shadowland into the light by our sacred masculine to more easily unfold within us. This sextile that Osiris is making to Deneb and Saturnia, remember the effect of this sextile is like your BFF, right? Your best friend that's got your back, okay? All right, then we have this incredible, what I call string of pearls. To me, the string of pearls is a gift of grace from your mighty I am presence, your divine self, okay? So we've got Yeshua, your inner Christ consciousness, standing right here next to the galactic center. The galactic center is the heart of our galaxy. And remember, I've talked about even the sun being the heart of our solar system. We have our Christ heart. We are able to communicate heart to heart, from our heart to the sun, the heart of our solar system, to the galactic center, to the heart of the Milky Way galaxy, all the way to the great central sun, which is the heart of Sophia Christ. Okay, this is huge. Everything, light codes, frequencies, everything coming in from other galaxies through the galactic center, from other ascended beings in other galaxies, coming through the galactic center to support us in breaking and helping our inner masculine break free from the shadowland and stand fully in the light of our divine self. All of that comes through the galactic center. So this is leading edge codes, intelligence, frequencies that humanity has not been able to have access to before, coming in through the galactic center. And so with a string of pearls, what happens is each pearl is at what's known as a 30-degree aspect or a semi-sextile aspect to the next pearl. So the next pearl is Venus in Capricorn. The next pearl is the sun, that radical, radiant heart light, that divine love. Then we've got Magdalene and Neptune over here in Pisces. We've got our moon in Aries. Okay. So again, from the beginning of this string of pearls, Yeshua in the galactic center, to the end of this string of pearls, the moon in Aries, Sagittarius to Aries, a third trine, a third pathway of most allowance. So this, our ability to take advantage of consciously engaging these frequencies for our inner masculine to break the binds to the shadowland and be focused now and forevermore fully and only on the light of who we really are, right? Sagittarius is a fire sign. The truth of who we are, the light of who we really are. That's why the cosmic Sophia is here. That's why Yeshua in the galactic center is here. helping us to allow our inner masculine come face to face with the truth of who we are, our divine light, our I am presence. Okay. So, as I said, for me, it happened on Valentine's Day. For everybody in the rest of the United States that doesn't live on the East Coast like I do, it happened on February 13th. It would have happened for those of you in Europe on Valentine's Day too. Okay, let's look at the chart for Venus and Pluto. Now, what you're going to see is I've got the same color coding going on because for the most part, 99% of the luminary bodies involved, it's pretty much the same, even though it's 3 days later. You will notice here's Pluto and Venus, right? 0 degrees, 52 minutes. So that does get round up by 1 degree to 1 degree. Notice that in 3 days, Pluto has moved from 46 minutes to 52 minutes. So that's what? That's about 6 minutes that it's moved in 3 days. So 2 minutes a day. Remember, I've always told you Pluto is very slow moving. Okay, so here's the cosmic Christ again. Now, back here 3 days ago, he was at 8 degrees of Capricorn. Now he's at 9 degrees of Capricorn. He's continuing to make that sextile to Deneb and Saturnia, right? Best friend, got your back. He is also, notice, making a trine to Jupiter right here in Taurus, that path of most allowance. But now what's happening is he's creating an inconjunct to the moon. Okay, I'm going to come back to the inconjunct because you're going to see that we've got another inconjunct coming up with Isis. Isn't it interesting? The cosmic Sophia and the cosmic Christ, both creating inconjuncts. We'll talk about that in just a second. Meanwhile, Isis in 3 days has moved from 17 degrees of Sagittarius to 18 degrees of Sagittarius. She is still trining the Chiron North Node conjunction, which remember becomes exact in 2 days, Monday the 19th. I will do a journal on that. But now she's also in a position to be making a sextile to Mercury, the cosmic messenger. So that's that aspect of, the best friend that's got your back. And then her inconjunct is over here to Uranus in Taurus. Okay, so I will come back to those inconjuncts. And now let's look at Yeshua and the galactic center, their conjunction. We don't have a string of pearls now, and that's okay. What we do see is that they are making that sextile to the sun, right? We are allowing the inner Christ to facilitate our ability to connect with the radiant light and love that we are embodiments of, that our sun, as the ruler of Leo, which is the sign of the Christ heart, is. This is our sun now. This is what we're focused on. The dazzling white light of the sun broadcasting through our Christ heart and through every cell of our body, because every cell in our body has the Christ consciousness, the Sophia Christ consciousness in it. Okay. And then the Yeshua Galactic Center conjunction is squaring Magdalene, his beloved, right? Inner Christ, inner Sophia. In Pisces next to Neptune. Neptune is that pipeline to source. And so think about this Pisces energy. This Pisces energy is your mighty I am presence, the pipeline to your divine self, which is the mighty I am presence. And your inner Christ and your inner Sophia are working together to allow you to have this breakthrough in consciousness where the lower mind is no longer pulling you back to focus on what's going on out there in the shadowland. Your inner Christ, your inner Sophia are helping you to keep your focus, your attention, your awareness on your mighty I am presence, which is the presence of that divine love in your heart. This is so powerful, so powerful. Okay, so as I promised, let's talk about these inconjuncts. Now, the inconjunct aspect is very much like the distillation step in alchemy. There's 7 steps of alchemy. We've been learning all about alchemy through the Galactic New Earth Tribe. My soul sister, Maureen, her priestess name is Winsong, has been teaching us these steps of alchemy. And we're currently at that 6th step of alchemy. Distillation, right here at the crown chakra, the portal of authority. This portal of authority, which represents your spiritual sovereignty. Okay. So the inconjunct says to you, oh, I can either be this or I can be that, or I can do this or I can do that, or I can have this or I can have that, right? That is the struggle that happens with the shadow side, right? In the shadow land of that aspect. But in the higher spheres, what this aspect is inviting you to do is to expand your inner space, make it large enough so that now you can hold the frequencies of these 2, 3, 4, whatever, seemingly different, seemingly possibly even opposing concepts or ideas, so that instead of either or, it's I can be this and I can be that. I can do this and I can do that. I can have this and I can have that, and I can have that, and I can be that, and I can do this, and. The more that you expand that inner space, the more and you can envelop and embody within you. And so let's start with the Isis in conjunct Uranus. This is exactly what this inconjunct is doing. Taurus represents this sacred vessel, right? This temple for your divine self. And so for you to have enough space to be able to make this shift from your, for both your inner masculine and your inner feminine, to break the binds to the shadowland and turn and face only the light, you have to create more space, because when you turn and face the light, that's a higher frequency. Now you need more space. And Uranus, right, that multidimensional self, the quantum realm, is allowing you to create that space within this physical sacred vessel temple, so that you can have the breakthroughs in consciousness, so that you can be able to start engaging with the ascended masters, whichever ascended master is working with you as a student of light. Okay, that's huge. All right, so that's Sophia working with Uranus to help you do this, because remember, Sophia, she's the sacred feminine. Now the cosmic Christ, who is, part of the sacred masculine, is having an inconjunct with the moon in Gemini. This is huge, because what did I say? You gotta break the binds of the lower mind that keeps wanting to pull your attention and your awareness to, this political event or that political event, or this truther or that truther, or even this TV program or that TV program, whatever it may be that you can't seem to pull your attention away from. Okay. Now, this is beautiful that it's the moon in Gemini, because 2 synodic cycles before this current Venus, Leo goddess synodic cycle, we went through the Venus Gemini goddess cycle. The Venus Gemini goddess is the rainbow goddess. And I was talking back then, almost 3 years ago, how this rainbow goddess represented not only our chakra system, right? They are the rainbow colors, but also the corpus callosum, which is the bridge between your left hemisphere and your right hemisphere. And so what this rainbow goddess was doing for us was helping us to evolve, to bridge and balance the hemispheres across the corpus callosum, so that we could raise our awareness at will from the lower mind, which Gemini in the mundane world is associated with, to the higher mind, right? The higher mind that is illuminated by the radiant, pure Sophia Christ light. And of course, the moon in Gemini is representing that rainbow goddess. And so the cosmic Christ creating an inconjunct there, again, creating the space for you to embody the frequencies, the higher frequencies, where now the higher mind has the will to be able to hold your self-control, your self-mastery focused up here at these frequencies, so that your attention, your awareness is on your mighty I am presence and not the shadowland. This is exquisite, absolutely exquisite. So I just get awestruck by the beauty of the divine plan that is unfolding for humanity now. How much grace, how much love, how much support we have at this time as we are moving into the next golden age, that which I call the new earth. And if you have at all worked with the Galactic New Earth Project, or followed any of the material from the Galactic New Earth Project, you'll be aware that I have said on many occasions that the time has come. You can no longer keep 1 foot in the 3D reality and 1 foot in the 5D reality. You've got to plant both feet solidly in the 5D reality. I've been saying that, and now here we've got Mars, Pluto, Venus, Pluto, that is really breaking the binds, right? If you felt like you had a concrete shoe on keeping you in 3D reality and you couldn't get it quite over to 5D reality, this Venus, Pluto, and the Mars, Pluto conjunctions broke the bind. It shattered the concrete so that you can now have both feet solidly in the 5D new earth reality where you can keep your attention and your focus on your divine self, on the light of who you are, because in the light there is no shadow. Okay, this is huge. All right, so that's all I've got for you, except for this beautiful little prayer that I'm sending out to you from my heart to yours. This is a prayer from the Ascended Masters. And the prayer is, may the peace of the cosmic Christ enfold you and carry you forth on wings of light until you have reached eternal perfection. So I'm sending you my love, heart to heart, that prayer, heart to heart. I thank you for sticking with me through the end of this journal, and I look forward to seeing you in my next one. Take care. Bye-bye.